Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Inside Lines podcast. I'm your host, Atoya Burleson.
And I am Tia Avril.
Coming up a bit later in the show, we'll be chatting with activist, author, and inspirational speaker, Sabrina Greenlee. We'll also be getting into our hot take this week, where we'll be discussing good moms, bad choices. But first, Tia, how's it going?
It's going good. It's been a busy week. Xander had a lot of baseball this week, which, you know, at this age, baseball.
I'm sorry. That's all I'm going to say is I'm sorry.
He was in the field chasing his tail, spinning in circles. Then they put him at catcher, and he was terrible at catcher. I'm like, what is going on? But you wanted to play this. But he's a good hitter. And he's I won't say he's a good first baseman. There's another, I don't even know the position, but he's good at it. But he be zoning out. It's too much. And then I had to bribe him. He has a track meet on Sunday.
Okay.
So I thought he was slow, but he get out there. He actually is good, but you have to bribe him to actually try. So I owe him Robux. So I'm like,
listen, you have to do what you got to do to win a championship around here. Okay.
Thank you. I'm like, we will be champions, okay?
Listen,
whatever it takes.
We need to be bribed, right? So every now and then we need a little bribery in our lives. A little motivation. That's all.
What about you? What's been going on with you?
Oh, gosh. This week was all about my oldest. I think everybody knows I have a senior in high school. His birthday was Wednesday, so we celebrated his last birthday in my home as he lives under my... Well, it's not his last birthday, but... This is the last birthday I will be celebrating with him as he lives under my roof. So we did a big, we got a big, party limo bus and went to catch steak in New York. And he had catch steak with about 8 of his friends. And then yesterday we surprised him with a surprise party, and he had zero idea. Goodness. He was completely shocked. And it was crazy to get him out the house. We were like, his friend came over like, we're going to go to dinner. And he's like, okay. He's like, come on, let's go. We're going to be late. He's like, man, he's playing video games. He did not want to leave. And I was freaking out because people were supposed to be to our house in 10 minutes. And I had to go in there and be like, Nate, your friend did something really nice for you. Destiny, video games can wait. Go with your friend to dinner. Please, people are coming over. But he left just in time. Like literally he left, came back because he forgot something, left again. And then the doorbell rang 3 minutes later. So it all worked out. Damn. He was completely surprised, and I'm tired and I'm done. The end.
Okay, now that I cannot believe Lil Nate.
He's grown. He
is grown. Yeah. And he's such a good kid.
He is. He's a great big brother. Great first child. I couldn't ask for a better one. I'm so happy for him. I'm so sad for me. But that's a whole nother conversation. All right, y'all. Enough about that. Let's get into this week's hot take. All right, it's time for this week's hot takes. Tia, what we got?
Okay, so this week in Hot Takes, we are talking good moms, bad choices. So if you guys are unfamiliar with it, it's a podcast with two hosts named Erica and Jamila. Well, they have been making their media rounds because they're promoting their new book, a book they did together called A Good Mom's Guide to Making Bad Choices, where they're essentially challenging the idea that motherhood has to be self-sacrificial. And then they also talk a bit about how when they were pregnant, they received all these books about how to be a mom, how to parent a toddler, how to parent a teen, but they never received any instruction on how to be a mother or how to parent the new person that you become once you become a mother. And one, I thought it was good. I'm going to definitely check out the book, but their interviews have been very good, very insightful, and have sparked some internal discussion within myself. So I'm going to ask you a few questions that came from an interview that they did with Van and Rachel over on Higher Learning. Okay. So like I said, their podcast in general and then their book is just challenging the idea of when you become a mom that you have to sacrifice all of these things. Okay. My first question, Atoya, is there anything that you feel like you can't do or that you have to stop doing once you become a mother?
Yes. I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
For me, I was working before I became pregnant with Nate, and I told myself that my goal was to, have him and then go back to work. Once he was, like going into the fall. So I would have him in May. I would go back to work in September when my maternity leave was up. But I couldn't do it. And no one made me stay. I just couldn't leave my baby. And it's something that you just don't understand. At least me, I didn't understand. And I didn't understand the big deal of why people feel that way. But I just knew in my heart of hearts that me being at home with him and spending this time with him would be not only beneficial for him, but beneficial for me. And I just felt like nobody could love my baby more than me and be more protective and loving. And so I decided to stay home with him. And I sacrificed my job. I sacrificed, those relationships and all that hard work, earning a master's. It's a lot of work you put in. And I don't regret it. I'm glad that I did it. But it was a sacrifice. You are dying to a part of yourself that you worked so hard for as an individual. But motherhood took over, and it was something that I felt like I needed to do.
Okay. So, that was something you felt like for you at that moment, that was something you felt like you had to give up for motherhood. Are there like societal norms that come into play that you feel like you can't do? Like you can't dress a certain way, you can't talk a certain way. Like, did any of that come up?
Not for me. I've always kind of, I feel like I've always been the person that did what was best for me. Like I've always I just been in the moments, and how I feel in the moments is how I deal with things. I don't really worry about the outside noise. I understand there's things that your parents teach you. There's things that, society teaches you, your friends teach you, but ultimately you can take all of that advice and you make it into the best recipe for yourself. And that's kind of how I've lived my life. I'm not black or white. I'm right there, right in the middle, mixing it together and making it work for me. As far as clothes and what I wore what I could wear. When you first have a baby, you can't wear certain things. Well, you can, but you don't feel comfortable in it, right? So for me, I wore what I felt good in. I wore what I felt sexy in. Now, I'm not saying like when I first had Nate, I was in the baggy t-shirts because, your stomach is still loose. Your stomach hasn't went all the way down. But boy, when it started tightening it up, my wardrobe changed, right? So I think the best as a mother and as a new mom and trying to figure it out, you just do the best that you can with what you have and leave the rest of it in the garbage, to be honest. What about you, Tia?
Well, yes, I do think there were some things that I felt like I had to give up or whatever with the mom. Work wasn't one of them. Like I gave up when I first stopped working, it was more because of the location I was in. Like if we were in Charlotte, my tail would have still been working, So work was not one that I felt like I had to sacrifice, but it was more of the freedom and stuff like that. Because truth be told, society and everybody else, like they say, for the woman, that's your child. Like that's your responsibility. So the sacrifice in terms of your time, hell, your sleep, like everything fell on the mom, right? And which was me. And then especially with our situation, like I had Zay at the top of the season, like it was training camp, So going through training camp and, even when the season started, just like, oh, hell, the baby crying. Well, I got to get up because he got to be up in 2 hours for work, like stuff like that. Like I felt like, okay, that definitely fell on my lap when truth be told, it could have been more dispersed, if that makes a difference. And then also like I cuss like a sailor. I've been trying to get myself together, but I really I use a lot of profanity. And when I had kids, my husband looking at me like, can we not? Like, can we not? And now they come to expect that I'm going to say something, but it won't be. But it's, it's little things like that where I'm like, okay, I did sacrifice that or give that up or change because, I became a mom. Now, whether it's good or bad, like it was somewhere I was like, well, I can't just be cussing in front of these kids, these other people's kids. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
That was your sacrifice, was you had to give up your curse words.
Listen, I'm like,
out of all of these.
Sometimes... Well, it's more of you can't do this because you're a mom now, right? Because I mean, sometimes when you want to say something, you got to have the emphasis on it, and the emphasis requires a curse word. But neither here nor there. Okay. Okay. So this other question is, you already answered it, but it was going to be like, how do you assert yourself or assert your personhood so that you don't become just somebody's mom? So you're not just Nate's mom or Nehemiah's mom, like you're Atoya, which you talked about a little bit already. But okay, my last question, because this was very interesting for me, but Van brought up, because Erica and Jamila asked Van, like, do you really know your mom? Like, do you know your mom outside of being a mom? And Van said that he actually started asking her questions when he got into adulthood, just who is she, because we are all whole human beings before we become moms. And he said that his mom told him that that she actually fantasized about what life would be like had she not had Van and his sister. So my question to you, Atoya, have you ever fantasized about life without kids?
Without kids? No, but it slapped me in the face this year when my oldest is going to college. But if I look back, gosh, I would say no, I didn't. I fantasize having a break. I fantasize, going away for the weekend. I fantasize my next vacation without kids. Absolutely. But I never really fantasized life without my kids. And I guess for me, having a family and or raising kids and or spending time with them and putting in the work and effort, to me, it's been a beautiful thing. I've loved it. And maybe it's the educator in me, the psychologist in me. And to your point about moms, with my mother and maybe with that generation, they were there for you, but they didn't really spend the time talking about who they were and what mistakes they made and, how they would do things differently and why you should do the things you do. But that was so important to me. I remember being, maybe in high school saying, when I have kids, they gonna know everything. I'm gonna tell them everything. They're gonna be tired of me because, I was the curious kid that wanted to know why. Well, why, Mom? Well, how come? And she'd be like, you asking too many questions. Go sit down. Be quiet. So I would say for me, I didn't really fantasize not having my babies, but I definitely 100% on multiple occasions fantasize breaks because I needed them, because I always say you have to miss them so you can kiss them. What about you?
So I think when the word fantasize, like, to me, it means, or it kind of makes it seem like it's like a desire, right? Like this unattainable, like, dang, I really wish I could.
What would life be if it was this way? Yeah.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say I have ever done that. But after having the first kid and then again with the second kid, I had postpartum. And postpartum to the point where I didn't even know I had postpartum. And then so the seat I was in, I'm like, well, dang, I'm sacrificing all this stuff, sacrificing myself, my finances. Like, I wouldn't really sacrifice my finances, but y'all know what I mean. But just like the whole independence piece, and that was really hard. And I thought,
when you say you didn't know you had postpartum, you didn't know, what were the signs where you realized that you did later? When you say that, because I don't think a lot of people know what that is. Yeah, like that. I have a friend that went through it and she didn't realize it either. But it was later, and she read the signs. She's like, "Oh my gosh, what was that for you?"
Do you have these things? Well, I think when people hear the word or the term postpartum, they automatically, or postpartum depression, they automatically think, "Oh, you want to hurt your baby" or something like that. I never had those feelings. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because really, that's what I really thought, or. Which is why when I was in it, I didn't know that I had it, because I just thought it was like, oh, you had ideas of hurting your child. I never had those types of ideas. But just like the extreme depression, like literally only getting up out of the bed because this child is here and this child got to be fed. You got to feed yourself so you can feed this kid, kind of thing. But like crying all the time, like nothing make you happy, like literally putting on a front for any and everybody that comes around, right? The questioning of like, yo, did I make the right decision Like, did I make the right decision becoming a mom? Like, was I really ready? Like, am I capable of being a good mom and like not just feeding them, you know, but like truly pouring into a child, like raising a global citizen, you know what I mean? Like that takes somebody that is well, yeah, just in the sense of like a well-respected child, real respectful child, right? Like I just didn't know that I could do it. And so I mean, there's some other things, and there's different symptoms for everybody, but it even showed up differently when I had Xander, because I just was like, what the hell? I got 2 kids. What the fuck am I doing with this? But
that's all of us, girl. That's called shock. It was okay.
Yes. And so it was more of the envisioning like, okay, well, did I make the right decision? What would have happened if I made this decision instead of this? You know, like those are the thoughts that I had, but it was never a moment where I was like, oh, I wish I didn't have them. Never those types of situations. But
you know, that's interesting that you share that, and I'm so glad that you did, because to your point, people have these extreme versions of what they think postpartum is, and for you to share that, maybe that will really bless and help someone else, and they realize like, oh, that's what I have. You know what I'm saying? Because how would you know, right? Yeah. Like how would you know if it's something that you've never, you know, experienced before? And I didn't realize that you had it with both the boys.
I did. And you know what it is like one day stuff is clear. And you like, damn, like I've been in a fog, like a deep, heavy fog for all this time. And then it's just clear. So yes. But y'all let us know. So hopefully, number one, y'all go back and listen to Erica and Jamila's interview with Van and Rachel on higher learning. But two, like, let us answer those questions for us. Like, did you ever fantasize about not becoming a mom, or what life would be like without your kids? Or let us know also if there's some things that you feel like you got to stop doing because you are a mom.
And let's be clear. Let's be clear. It's okay to want to take a break from your kids. We want y'all to understand that it's actually very normal. And most importantly, it's very healthy. So don't let mom guilt come over you to where you feel like needing a break and or spending time away from your kids makes you a bad mom. It does not. It is very healthy and very normal.
Well, it's important to just be your own person outside of your kids, because at some point those kids are going to leave the home, and it doesn't mean that you're going to stop mothering them, but you literally have to know who you are and figure out what life looks like once your kids start living their own lives.
Yes,
if that makes sense. But yeah, so leave us a voicemail, speakpipe.com/inside lines.
All right, y'all. Coming up next, our chat with Sabrina Greenlee. On the show today, we welcome a well-respected community leader, a survivor who has dedicated her life to helping facilitate the growth and evolution of women. She is the creator and founder of S.M.O.O.T.H, speaking mentally, outwardly opening opportunities towards healing. And she is the mother of NFL wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. Please welcome to the show, Sabrina Greenlee. Hello, welcome.
Hello. How are you?
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure.
So I see that we're all wearing shades of pink today. We didn't plan this, but it's kind of working out because this is for Mother's Day, and we just going to go with it.
Yes. That's amazing.
And you are the first player's mom that we have on the show.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
Okay, so I want to before we start talking about everything, let's talk about Super Bowl a little bit. Super Bowl was in Arizona. I know you were there, and you were moving and shaking there. We didn't get to see you, obviously, but we're so blessed to have you on here. Tell me how your Super Bowl experience was in Arizona.
Well, it was definitely good. I mean, of course, I would have loved for my son to have been playing in it, but still, there were so many opportunities. My team and I was there, and we actually we enjoyed it. So it was business for me mostly, going to the brunch, and then we hosted our own event there this year. That was our first ever. We did a Soft Life Fest, where we, the organization, we pampered and loved on, I think about 50 women. And we did it differently this year. We did it like festival style, where we had flower crowns and we had a DJ. So that was exciting for me to actually just be in the presence of not only the Super Bowl, but to get to actually, host my own event. It was really good.
It was good. Okay, so wait, so you said you were pampering women. Who were the women?
The women, we went into a shelter there in Arizona, and women of domestic violence, trauma, PTSD, that have been going through things. We actually went to them. What I found is that it's really hard to get women to come out of a shelter. So we, it's kind of like meet people where they are. So we went into the shelter.
Oh,
it was a really good experience to just go into to where they live. And so we actually went into the open area where they had kind of like a commons area. So we set up there. It was amazing.
So is this something that you're going to do annually?
We will definitely be doing it annually. I partnered with Eli Apple's mom, Annie Apple.
Okay.
Oh,
and
nice.
we'll be doing that. So we'll be headed to Vegas in February doing that.
Okay, well, we will be there.
Yes, please let us know.
Awesome. So you ladies definitely have a front seat to the event already.
All right, say less. That's all we need to hear.
That's it.
So we know there's all these amazing, things that go on in Super Bowl. There's all these red carpet moments. Tell me, is there like a favorite red carpet moment that you've enjoyed?
Nothing in particular. I think I was more excited this year that I was hosting my own event there finally.
Yeah.
But I think just being there with my son and just enjoying that time, it's always good to fly in wherever he is. And he's always doing these, red carpet events amazing. And just by chance, I'm kind of sitting around hoping, he'll say, Mama, come on.
Come on with me.
Yeah. Nothing stands out in particular, but it's always just good to be in the atmosphere. It's amazing.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
So, as I said at the top of the show, you are the first mom that we've had on the show. And we've had different women and different people behind the scenes come on and share what their experience has been like with whatever their relationship is to a professional athlete. But can you chat a little bit about your experience as the mom of a professional athlete? I'm
so honored to call him my son. I think it's been amazing. Just the 10-year experience, because he's been in the league 10 years now. So it's been a roller coaster ride, the ups and downs. And of course, him getting traded to Arizona, which was, a shock. But I think overall, just being an NFL mom, it's an honor to do that. And so I don't take it lightly because, of course, we all know that it could be a short span. But just for us to have been in the NFL for 10 years, and of course I say us because it takes a village.
Yeah,
and so I think most of all, just understanding the position of being behind the scenes and just supporting him no matter what is very important. I don't want to be forefront because, he's definitely the famous wide receiver, football star. And so just being there to, no matter what it is, to support him, I think that's my position. And just doing that is definitely an honor for me.
That's awesome. Okay, so I want to back up a little bit, and I would like to know if you can just share with our listeners just a little bit about your life story so they can get to know you more.
Well, it's been a lot of adversities, not only for me, but, for my children. I was assaulted in 2002, leaving me totally blind, 17% of my body burned. DeAndre, who is now, wide receiver in the NFL, was only 10 years old. Prior to that, his father and I were in a car accident in 1992, where his father passed away 8 days later. So it's been a roller coaster ride of a lot of tears, a lot of, sleepless nights, I went through severe depression. I knew exactly how I wanted to end my life at times. It was just a lot of things. Of course, the aftermath after the assault that I'm speaking of. And so just having to come back home totally blind, raising 4 children was really, really tough. And as I said,
at this time, how was your oldest and then your youngest?
So my oldest, Keisha, was 14 at the time. My other son was 13. DeAndre was 10. And my baby girl was 4 years old at the time of the assault. And so it really took a lot of willpower to just get up every day and fight to want to be a mother, to get back to being a mother, because it was just me and my babies, that day that I left to go and, go and look for my car and, just having a hot head, thinking that, I'm going to get my car because, like I said, I had, been in a relationship for about 4 months, only 4 months with this guy. I had no idea that he had an ex-girlfriend. And so they decided that I no longer needed to be on this earth. And so I was called to a place one day and where she threw a concoction of mixed red devil eye along with Clorox on me, leaving me totally blind. And that was 20 years ago. So I've been blind for 20 years.
And what is a red devil eye?
So I didn't know what it was until, of course, we went to court. It is a liquid concoction that most people use to clean out their drains.
Wow. Okay. So you said, and they decided together. So the guy that you were dating and his ex, what was the, not that anybody could ever explain away a situation like that, but what was their explanation when they went to court?
They really didn't have one. We decided to prosecute her. And so he was a key witness. And so it was kind of like you had to pick your poison. She ended up doing 20 years in jail. But he testified that she said that she just wanted to take me out. And so she was going to shoot me at first. He said, no, that's too messy. So she came up with another idea, which was the concoction.
And with no explanation, you went there to get your car. You weren't expecting
not
any
really,
of this.
other than just saying that she didn't want me around or in his life.
When this happened, did you understand what was going on? And when this happened immediately, what were you thinking?
It was a shock because I was in a coma for a little over a month. So waking up blind, not knowing where I was or what happened. I remember going to a place one day, but that was about all I remember. So I immediately, of course, I was induced into a medically induced coma at the time. And waking up about a month and a half later, having to do rehab because I had a lot of skin grafts, not knowing if I was ever going to see again. My children at the time couldn't come see me. The only one that could really come see me was Keisha. And because she was the oldest, it was really, really tough. It was one of the worst situations I've ever been put in because coming home to those 4 children and, my baby girl, of course, she wouldn't come to me for about a month because she kept calling me a monster because, I didn't look the same. I didn't talk the same. There was bandages everywhere. It was really, really tough.
Really rough. Can you speak more about that that experience coming home, right? Because I don't think people fully grasp, yes, it happened to you and it's traumatic and you have to go through all these life transitions, but what that does to kids, especially at the ages that your kids were, those are such pivotal times.
Oh, absolutely. So what I know now is that my children were survivors too, because everything that I went through, they're curious. They want to know. And, when mama's not right, nobody's right. And so just sitting in that room, I sat in my room for 3.5 years. I had no idea, what impact that would make on my children. And of course, it was really tough because everything as we know it, it changed. I had people having to come in and feed my children or even get them to their events. And, nobody's going to take care of your children, like you.
The way that you do.
And so it was very depressing that, at times they couldn't find rides to where they needed to be. I mean, everything changed for us. I think that was the toughest part, knowing that our lives was changed and just disrupted for practically no reason.
Yeah. So did you have family members that had to move in with you to help care for the kids, or like how was that process?
So believe it or not, no one ever moved in. I just began to lean on Keisha a lot, the oldest one, to take care of the youngest ones. And I knew that I needed to get up out that bed and take care of my own children. And so blind and all, I began to, just get up and understand that I needed to get up, not only for the children, but for myself, and not keep having these pity parties, feeling sorry for myself. And after I got over the suicidal thoughts and just understanding that there was a reason for me, everything happened for a reason. I didn't understand it. And I continually questioned God because everything had happened. I lost 2 brothers prior to that point. One of my brothers died in a domestic violence dispute. The other one died in a car wreck that I literally held him until he took his last breath. And then here it is, my fiance, died 8 days later. We're in a car accident. So it's like a lot of things that led up to that. Wow. And here it is, I'm laying in the bed wanting to end my life myself. And I don't think anybody will really understand you're at your lowest point when your children aren't even enough to fight for. And so it was bigger than me. Like, this is something that is that only God can come in and help me with, because I'm tired. It's so many things happen up to this point. And I had to just trust that God had a plan for me. Like, it had to be a master plan.
Did you ever go through therapy, like during this process?
Never went through therapy. My mom, my dad, even my brother's passing, it just wasn't known for us. And I think in our culture, because my thing was back then, I had this imprint in my head that if I went through therapy, then somebody was going to call me crazy. And so I never went through therapy as bad as I needed it. Now, of course, I can't live without it. But I did not. Literally went through everything on my own.
Okay, so you talk about going through everything on your own, and you talk about having these suicidal thoughts, and at some point it starts to get better. What was it? What were those steps like for you as you started getting better?
I think those steps for me getting better was getting on the path of forgiveness. Like, no matter how bad it was, I had to start the process of forgiving those people that hurt me. I think that was the biggest thing for me. And one of those things were humanizing her, normalizing her, and understanding that for someone to have did this to another person, like they had to be broken or hurt themselves. And so I started comparing things. The more I knew about her, the more that I wanted to learn, I would say, because this was a process. It wasn't overnight that I even wanted to forgive. Her initials was SG. Mine was SG. She was young. She was a Black woman, and she was manipulated, lied to, just like me. And so I began to compare her to me, of course, and understand that, something wasn't right. And so I learned that she had to take care of her siblings as I did. It was a long process. It took about a year or so. And I began to start praying for her, asking God to give me the strength to pray for her. But the more I prayed for that young lady, the better my life became, the more I was able to kind of get up, because I needed something.
Yeah.
It wasn't working the way, sitting there. I think getting on the path of forgiveness changed everything. I was able to truly eventually forgive.
So you would say like just getting to know her more and more allowed you to kind of, I guess, give her grace.
To give her grace.
Okay.
And because I had to, so I started asking about her just a little here or there, and knowing that her childhood wasn't great, mine wasn't great. She was a young Black girl, and she was manipulated, of course, by him. A lot of things that I found out that was similarities, and I thought, okay, I know I'm broken. Clearly I was broken to get to that point where I tolerated a lot of things, because there was a lot of red flags prior to even getting there that day. Not only that, but I had to take accountability for my part in it. A lot of people don't understand that when you go through things and it's easy to blame people. But I had to take accountability. I had no business attaching myself to a man like that in the beginning, in the first place.
What do you mean? What did he display like some red flags or something?
Oh, absolutely.
Like
from day one, he was very clingy, very emotional. He told me he loved me on the second day that we were together. He attached himself to me very quickly. So, of course, I took that as, oh, my God, he loves me. He wants to be with me. He was living with his mother. He had absolutely nothing to bring to the table with me having my own home and 4 children. Not that matters. I'm very non-judgmental. But he attached himself to me. And so he had the keys to my car, access to my home, my heart, my children, all in a matter of 3 weeks. Way too fast.
I'm glad you spoke about the forgiveness piece. I say all the time, like, we know that the cliche sayings like, oh, you forgive somebody not for them, but for you, right? But if I'm truthful with myself, I don't know how to forgive. I don't know how to forgive, right? But that is helpful, and like just get to know the person and that person's journey. Well, it is, because I'm like, forget you forever, okay?
Oh gosh.
But it is important to extend grace, because to your point, as you started to learn more about her and forgive, like things in your life started adjusting and getting better, So thanks for sharing that.
I think my first prayer was, literally my first prayer for her was, Lord, allow her to prosper, and everything she touches turns to gold. That was it. That's as far as I could go. And of course I attached on, more and more. And I don't even know why it was like everything she touches turns to gold. That's as far as I could get. But I began to add on and continuously, really, really pray for her. And I'm talking about until I'm snotting and I'm crying, because as I see, the more I pray for her, the more things began to change in my household. I began to get up. I began to feel a little better. I began to, be more attentive to my children that needed me. Things began to change.
So you feel like your faith with God, in God, is what kind of started, you started having these, moments where you realize, I have to be different. God's telling me, he's telling me to do these things. I need to be obedient in what he's telling me. And that's when you noticed the more you were obedient, the more you prayed for her, the more that you forgave, you saw all of this weight lifted off of you, and you were able to be blessed in your own home.
Oh, absolutely. It was like I was having these little inklings that to pray for her. And I was like, I'm not praying for her. Like, they tried to hurt me. I wasn't even sure if I was going to have justice, done at that time when God was telling me to pray for her. I was like, I'm not praying for her. I need to, somebody need to pray for me. Right. And it just kept coming to me. So I began to do it.
How, I know you said you leaned on your oldest, Keisha, a lot. How is she doing?
My baby is doing amazing. So I just found out this week that she just, she's a realtor here in Houston, and she's excelling amazingly in that. I just found out this week that she just closed on another $1 million home. So she is doing
Okay,
good.
Keisha.
Okay. Yes. Okay. She is doing amazing. So Keisha went on to go to college. She went to college first in Pittsburgh. Then she transferred back to a school in South Carolina, and she ended up graduating with a BS degree.
You have all these amazing kids. Let's give them all shout outs. Let's talk about each one of them, because I know as a mom, and with it being Mother's Day, you have to be so proud of them.
Oh, I am. Keisha, of course, I said she's a realtor, and she's doing great. By the way, she owns her first, the only women's football league in Houston. She's the owner of that, one of the owners.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah, Keisha's doing great things. She played women's football for 8 years. She finally decided to throw in her helmet, as she says, and now she owns her own league here in Houston. So she's doing great.
What's the league?
It's called the Mambas. The Mambas. It's after the snake, Kobe.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Mambas. I think they're into their third game, so it's fresh to me.
So is it she owns her own team, or she owns the actual league, and then she has a bunch of teams under her?
She owns her own team. So she has her own team here in Houston, yes.
And you said she's been playing for 8 years. What position did she play?
She played wide receiver, number 10. Go figure.
Okay.
All these athletes, okay?
Number, so. I know. Well, Keisha was playing football when she was like 5 or 6. So she was a wide receiver way back then. She was the only little girl in the whole boys league in South Carolina when she was really little. I allowed her to play for 3 years. And then, of course, as she went into middle school, they wouldn't allow girls to play, so she had to stop. So she's always been very active and wanting to play football. So my son, Marcus, he is actually an aspiring musician. He's a producer. He does the beats, and he raps, he sings. So, and Marcus is my most artistic child. He is, he's just kind of really laid back. He doesn't talk a lot, but he can rap and sing. He's a singer, so I'm so proud of him. And he's a father of 3, and he has another one due in July.
Go ahead,
Grandma.
They keep making me a GG. How did you know I was a glam? Yes.
It's a grandma. Look, I already face is beat. I already know she is a grandma. Okay.
Yes. And then of course DeAndre. I think we all know DeAndre Hopkins, the best wide receiver in the league. And then I have my baby Shantaria, who is she just turned 25, and she is a model. So she has she models in Los Angeles, Arizona, and she recently just got with a new agency in New York. So Shantaria is modeling. She's amazing. She does. I mean, awesome. I just think that's her thing. When she turns into a whole other person when she's in front of the camera. So those are my babies.
Yeah.
That's how you know when they see a camera and they don't shy away. It's their gift.
Exactly. And they all went to college. And they ended up, doing other things. But I'm so proud of all of them.
So, because I know you said Keisha went off to Pittsburgh, and I know we're going to shift to another topic real quick. But with her being the oldest, sometimes when an older child has to take on the I'm going to put in quotes parenting of the household, like sometimes they are hesitant to go far because they think about the responsibilities that they have to either pass on or they think may be neglected or things like that. Did she struggle to leave and go away for school? And like, how did you encourage her to keep living her dreams?
That's a good question. What I think happened was I began to implement things into the home. So we did like family meetings. Now, mind you, I did not know what I was doing. This is not something that I did that I was brought up with in my home, because I had a very dysfunctional home. But what I began to do is like have family meetings where we held each other accountable. And in that, I would, so, hey, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What do you want to do? Because I was so determined once I got up and decided that I was going to, take over my home again. It was important for me to not allow those children to live with the fact that, I got hurt and have this woe is me story. I was not going to let what happened to me define them. So I pushed them. I made them say it out loud. What do you want to do? Where are you going? We held each other accountable, from year to year. And so I think that had a lot to do with her understanding that it wasn't an option for you to sit around here. Like you were going to pursue your dreams. And I think that had a lot to do with it. So we had a lot of family talks.
Mm-hmm. It's so important.
But of course she struggled at first. I mean, and she was, she's very militant to this day. I think because of that, Keisha gives orders. So I'm like, yeah,
not go away
she
easy.
gives orders, and she's also a trainer. And how I know is because like I trained with her about 3 months. I said, never again. The girl is militant and she does not play. And so, yeah.
I love that.
It definitely built character.
To say the least. What advice would you give moms? Because I listened to you talk about your kids and, where they are in their lives. And I know you're so proud because, the great thing about a mom, and when I look at my kids, is that God brings them into your life and they're all so different. Like you never get two kids that are the same. Every single one is different. What would you say to moms they don't really understand that part about being a mother and parenting? They think that, you have to parent a certain way or be a certain way with all of them. What advice would you give moms that may be struggling or they may not know, how to parent their kids that are all so different?
I think the one thing that worked for me was that it was because it's a very thin line with disciplining them and being their friend. So what I let them know very early on, I am not your friend. Your friends are in school. Your friends you will find later on in life. I am your mother. And, we're going to conduct ourselves around here as such. I think the main thing about understanding each one of my children is I allow them to be free. I allowed them to express themselves. Even when times were hard, there were times that I wanted to like scream and jump up and down because of something that I disapproved of. But I had to understand that each one of them lives in their truth and they're all different. And I had to learn and notice I said I had to learn how to respect them differently because as they grow, they're going to show you their personality. But it's almost like just usher them, into what's right and wrong, but still allow them to be free. That was very important for me.
Yeah, that is amazing advice, especially I grew up in a dysfunctional family too, where honestly, when I think back on it, it's like, oh, you weren't like, y'all didn't really respect kids. Like kids were just right. But in all actuality, it's like, no, this is a full human being and you are allowed, like your job is to guide them and guide us, but respect us along the way. And so I definitely try to incorporate that with the kids, and it's a learning process. I learn something new every day. Like, okay, I probably didn't do that right. Probably could redo this.
Yes, yes, and they teach you things too.
Yes, they do.
Absolutely.
What's something that you wish you would have known when you were younger and you were parenting? Like when you look back, like, dang, I wish I would have known that.
I think I wish I would have known how to, that's tough. I think I wish I would have known how to I think the main thing for me, I'm trying to understand my thought process. I think the main thing for me was just, it was one of those things where do as I say and not as I do. Because I was people don't understand, like what you were saying earlier, children are human beings. And so there was a lot of things that I put in front of my children that I wish I wouldn't have now looking back. But it was one of those things where they weren't allowed to speak on it. I could do whatever I wanted to do. And they were not allowed to speak on it because guess what? I was mama. I was who I am. And how dare you go against me in any way? And now if I had to do it all over again, of course, for one, I probably, wouldn't be putting so many things in front of them, but I was doing what my mother did to me, and I wasn't allowed to speak on it. So my children wasn't allowed to speak on it. So, I was like, just following the generational curses that, that I had been given to me, and I was pushing it onto my children. And I think now, I would allow them to, as I said earlier, just allow them that freedom to speak on things, because once you can just say so many things to a child, they begin to, take that and they feel like they can't talk about certain things, and that's where we go wrong, because there are generational curses that need to be broken. And I was pacifying that one and not allowing them to just speak on things. I needed some, like literally had I allowed them to talk to me sometimes, it would have like helped me, but they were not allowed to say certain things to me because I was mama. And that's not how it should be.
Yeah. So you have a movie coming out this year about your story. So tell us about that experience. Like,
congratulations,
have a whole movie coming out.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you. I think it's still so surreal to me because, you live this life and you just go through it, surviving or, and now, I'm looking at like, oh, I'm an overcomer. Like I really did that,
Absolutely.
And so for someone to actually say we're going to, take your life and turn it into a motion picture because, you went through all of these things and you just come out on the other end, it's still, like I said, surreal. So it's in the developmental stages still with the directors and everything, but I'm super excited about it. I cannot wait until everybody actually gets to see this motion picture. The movie's called Sabrina, of course, but I'm excited about it.
That is awesome.
It really is. I think about, all the positive things you've done. I was reading somewhere that you've had over 30 eye surgeries. And, but you've continued to strive to do all these amazing things. How do you stay so positive with all these continued treatments going on, all the things that you have going on in your life? Where does this positivity come from?
I think the eye surgeries, it actually built a lot of character, built resilience, because having to go through eye surgeries for the last 20 years, I actually lost my battle with my sight about 6 years ago. So it was on and off. I was determined to get my sight back and to have some vision. I was like literally determined. God had other plans, but that's okay. I think like I said,
was it coming and going?
It was coming and going for the last, I would say, so 3 years into the attack, I regained some sight. So it would be on one eye or the other. And then, because I was doing a lot of like donor corneas, where you get, the corneas from other people that that would donate their corneas. And so it was a lot of those. I would say at least 5 or 6 on each eye. So the 30 surgeries, I would say, was on each eye. It was a lot of surgeries that I had to really build up the eye just so that it could take cornea transplants.
Okay.
And then, but I think with that, I look back, I was just kind of going through the motions. I was determined to have sight, but what it did was it built up who I am. I think when I look back, it was like I had to go through all of that for this person to be here, today, to be talking, to be strong, and to be courageous. So I'm of course, I always say, it sounds kind of corny when, I say I'm actually glad it happened, but I'm actually glad I had to go through all of that. And I wouldn't change anything now because it made me who I am.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk about the foundation you started, but I just have one last question. So the young lady that did this to you, where is she at now? Is she out now?
She was released 3 years ago. And she's actually, she was released May 3rd of 2020. And she's out.
Have you spoken to her?
I have not. She decided to recently speak out to Tasha K, a blogger.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
She actually, and this is the first time I'm talking about it. So, because I chose to remain silent, I chose to keep my peace, because what I was reminded. Okay, you talk the talk. Now it's time to walk the walk. If you forgave, you forgave. But I never thought that 20 years later I would be, sitting here saying, "Oh my God, like, did you really?" She spoke out to Tasha K. There was still no remorse or forgiveness in the 2-hour talk. So I chose not to listen to it because, baby, God got me, and there's nothing can make me go backwards.
Yes, ma'am.
So she chose to speak out. I've heard bits and pieces, and as I said, from people that I've talked to, there was no remorse or any apologies there. A lot of lies, and so I chose not to address it or even listen to it. But yeah,
protect your peace.
But let me tell you something. The enemy stays busy. Okay.
Yes. Amen to that. Amen to that. I was thinking, like, as you went through your road of forgiveness and you moved on and you've done so many amazing things, and this happens, before you found out about this, were you optimistic, or were you hoping that she would maybe one day reach out and try to say anything? Did you think that was a possibility? Yeah.
Of course, because she didn't only affect me that day, she affected my entire family. My babies that didn't deserve it. And so, of course, even if it's just for them, because things didn't have to turn out the way they did, it could have been a lot worse for my family. So, yeah, of course, I was hoping that. But what I know now is that 20 years ago, God gave me the strength to say, okay, you know what, you're still here. You have, of course, a couple of years after the attack. I wouldn't say right after, but, I was able to forgive. And so I was reminded about a month ago when she spoke out to pray for her again, because clearly she's still stuck, and clearly she's still there. And so once again, and it's so fresh because I literally prayed for that young lady again just a month ago. And I was reminded that, okay, you know what, like, just do it again, and let me show you what I'm about to do for you. Let me show you how I'm about to bless you in spite of.
I know
that's beautiful.
In spite of. So let's talk about S.M.O.O.T.H.
Okay.
Yes. You're the founder and CEO of this nonprofit organization. Tell us how you came up with this idea. And tell us what it stands for, and then tell us how you came up with the idea.
S.M.O.O.T.H stands for Speaking Mentally, Outwardly Opening Opportunities Towards Healing. And so God gave me this vision in 2013, literally in the middle of the night. You know how you could be laying there, and I don't know about you ladies, but things come in the middle of the night.
Yes,
and, it's like, oh. And so I got up, I called my best friend. I had tears in my eyes. I was like, he gave me the entire S.M.O.O.T.H. And, at first I'm thinking, how is people not going to associate S.M.O.O.T.H with domestic violence? Like, this makes no sense, Lord. But I was obedient, and I went with it. And ironically, it was the same year that my son was going into the NFL, which was amazing. And I got up and I just began to start speaking out. And so what I call it, speaking for T-shirts. I had no idea that it was going to turn into, an organization for that I would be in 3 different states as I am now. But I began to just go and start speaking to anybody that would hear me. I was like, listen, it's been 10 years, I want to speak out. Like, I'm ready. I got up, I took my power back and, all these things. And I began. So that wasn't enough for me, of course, because when God gave you something, you got to like you got to fully take it. And so I said, speaking out's not enough. I feel like I'm not getting away. I done pounded the pavement in my hometown. Everybody tired of hearing me. So I decided to form an organization because I did this backpack drive, and it was very successful. Hundreds of people came out, but there were some good women that came out. I attached myself to that day, and I thought, like, I'm sure these women. So I held a meeting, and they were all gang hosts, like 12 women. They said, "Yes, we'll do whatever it takes," and that's how I knew that I needed to do more. So I began to. God, he began to give me more and more confirmation that I needed to start an organization where I could go out and speak to women that had been through domestic violence. I thought about the one thing that I didn't have when I went through 3 very abusive relationships, not knowing who I was, not knowing my worth. And I was like, what is the one thing that, because it could have been teen pregnancy for me. It could have been, it's so many avenues I could have went down, but this was the one that I felt lost and lonely. And then I knew that if I spoke out, people would hear me, and this is an area where people need to hear me and know that they're not alone. And so I think that was the main reason why I created S.M.O.O.T.H, and it has definitely grown since.
That's amazing.
So you said you're in 3 different states. Where's the organization located?
We're in Texas, Arizona, and South Carolina. And we go out, and I actually just implemented a new program. I'm starting it here in Houston in May, where it's called S.M.O.O.T.H Transition Initiative, where we go into the shelters, and it's a 6-month program where we actually go in and teach the young ladies where they are, because I believe in meeting people where they are. We're going to go in, and so the first month we'll do financial literacy. The second month we will do house cleaning and, just keeping up with, your home and showing them how to, maintain. And I think the third month we will be doing just showing them what to wear in interviews, making sure that, they have the proper clothing on, no big hoops, no big hair, things like that. And how to conduct yourself in an interview. So we're going to go in and just teach them different things. And I think that's very important, that because those are things because when you're going through things like that, the last thing you think about is self-care or things that you really need, just a little nudge or help in. And so we'll take clothes in there. We'll leave the clothes with them. A lot of good things happening this year.
Yeah. No, I love that, because you brought up a great point in that when you're going through something as traumatic as trying to escape an abusive relationship or situation, you don't have the mental capacity to think about some of those things and to get yourself back on the right track. It's almost like you're in a never-ending hamster wheel. So that's beautiful that you are equipping those ladies to re-enter the world in a way that they can really be successful.
Absolutely. I think it's very important to regain a sense of independence. You're either thinking about everybody else, never yourself. And so we have this other session where we go in and actually do makeup pictorials and nails and hair. Just, love on them and pamper on them. That's important. Yeah.
What's one thing that you think domestic violence survivors would want listeners to know about their experience, and how can either friends or relatives help support them?
I think it's very important that you not sit back and assume that that person is okay. I think that is the biggest thing. If you know someone that's in not even domestic violence relationships, but just going through anything, or, you know, traumatized by something, or you assume that they went through it and they're over it. Be nosy. Hold your, don't sit back and not say anything, because you never know. Just you showing up that day and just saying, hey, I'm here. And not only that, but sometimes everything doesn't warrant a 1 hour conversation. Just go sit there. Just let your sister or your brother know that you're supportive and that you care, and meet people where they are. Whatever they want to do it. It doesn't matter if it's sit there and watch television or but you have to let people know that they're not alone. I think it's very important that you be nosy, that you let them know, and not only, you can't make a person do what they're not willing to do. I've learned that in my journey. I can't make a woman leave if she's not ready to leave.
Yeah.
But I can let her know that she's not alone, and that whenever she's ready to make that step, someone is there to help her.
That's good. I love that. That's good.
Okay, so here we go. We have this game. It's called the 2-minute drill. And it's a fun game. It's a way to kind of, it's NFL related. We're going to ask you questions. It's a way for the audience and the listeners to get to know you. So we're going to ask you a few fun questions, and then we'll conclude here. But let's first start. Tia, you have the timer? We'll start the timer.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Okay,
your favorite meal to eat?
Meatloaf.
Sleep in or take a nap?
Sleep in, of course.
What's your favorite sports team?
Whatever team my son is on. So right now it would be the Arizona Cardinals.
She's like,
how dare I say anything else?
I know that's right. Okay, what's your favorite place that you've ever visited?
Hawaii, hands down. Love Hawaii.
Do you love to travel, or are you more of a homebody?
Oh, definitely love to travel. Every chance I get.
Movie or read a book?
Oh, read a book. I am an advocate reader on Audible, of course. I'm reading Will Smith's book now. Love reading books.
That book is phenomenal. His book is so awesome.
I'm in the middle of it right now. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
But Finding Me by Viola Davis, a must read.
Ooh. Okay, I'm adding that to it.
We can talk all day about books. I love reading books.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to get. We're gonna finish this up, but I'm gonna have to get some book recommendations. But
yeah,
I listen to Audible more than I listen to music now.
Oh, me too.
The last one's a quick and easy question. What's a favorite place that you could always go to over and over again?
My mom's house.
Oh, I love that.
My mom's house. I can never get enough of, because we had such a turmoil relationship for such a long time. But I just think she is the most amazing person now. And I just love going in her back room and just laying there and just being at Mama's house.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
That's the way you end it.
I know.
Mother's Day, yes.
Going to Mom's
that's
house.
right, with Mother's Day.
Okay, if people want to get a hold of you or support your foundation, S.M.O.O.T.H, what's the best way to do so?
Oh, absolutely. So you can always keep up with us and what we're doing with the organization. You can go to smoothink.org, and that's with 3 O's. Or you can always check me out at Sabrina Greenlee 12 on Instagram. I am always dancing, giving out inspiration, and you never know what I have on, but I am out here living my best blessed life.
I know that's right.
And you should be. And, I just want to be the first to say, I know it's still early, but happy Mother's Day to you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
For blessing so many young women and men, and the resilience and the giving back that you've done. It's very inspirational, and we appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to actually share my story again and be an inspiration. So thank you, ladies.
What an inspiring Mother's Day conversation.
Listen. I don't even know what to say. When I say Miss Greenlee is amazing.
Inspirational.
That the daily
Resilient.
reminders. Yes. The daily reminders on the little things you can do to etch your way towards forgiveness. When I say, I have no words for Miss Greenlee. Thank you. Thank you.
And the fact that she's still moving and she has these organizations that she's blessing other people. People get stuck in victimization. They get stuck where they are. And the fact that she said, no, I'm more than that. This is my story is just beginning. That's beautiful. And so I thank you, Miss Greenlee. Happy Mother's Day to you and all the moms out there. And that's our show, ladies. For the latest on the Inside Lines podcast, make sure to follow us on @Inside Lines Podcast on both Instagram and Facebook.
Be sure to check us out online at InsideLinesPodcast.com. And again, if you have topics you want us to cover, people you want us to have on the show, give us a shout at speakpipe.com/Inside Lines.
If you want to tell Miss Greenlee how you really enjoyed her episode, please just leave us a comment and we will share it with her. But until next time, leave it all out on the field. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you.